Hi, I'm Bruce Dern, and this is the American International Podcast.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we're going to see if the movie we discuss in this episode has any bite. We're talking about The Cobra from 1967.
The Cobra was directed by Mario Sequi from a screenplay by Gumersindo Mollo, adapted from a story by Adriano Bolzoni. It was produced by Fulvio Lucisano for Dollar Film, Italian International Film, and Productores, Exhibidores Films S.A., and distributed by American International Pictures.
The Cobra stars Dana Andrews as Captain Kelly, Peter Martell as Mike Rand, Elisa Montés as Corinne, Anita Ekberg as Lou, Jesús Puente as Stiarkos.
It also stars Peter Dane as Hullinger, Luciana Vincenzi as Ulla, George Eastman as Crane, Omar Zulfikar as Sadek, Giovanni Petrucci as King, Guido Lollobrigida as Killer, and Chang'e as Li Fang.
The Cobra opens with some groovy organ music playing.
A stylishly dressed woman and her stuffed dog get into a convertible and drive somewhere down along the Mediterranean coast.
Finally, the car screeches to a halt outside a building. Inside an office in that building, a man hides behind the wall. The woman enters the room, and she says, "Bert, I got the goods. And here's the good news. I think I know who the Cobra is."
A voice behind her says, "Very interesting." Shocked, she turns to face the voice. "You're not Bert," she says quietly. And indeed, he's not Bert, and nor is the other guy standing next to him.
"You've made a mistake, Betty," the man says. "It's not your good day." The man who had been hiding behind the wall pulls out a gun. "No!" screams the woman as the credits start and the groovy music starts up again as well.
This is a very weird, crazy credit sequence. It's pretty 70s, but the takeaway seems to be that Betty's in big trouble. And also we see some guy screaming over and over again.
When the credits end, we return right where we left off. Betty shouts, "Wait," as the man shoots her twice.
One of the men looks over the schematics or whatever Betty meant to give Bert. He tells the hitman, whose name is Ulla, that he has 10 minutes to catch his train to Istanbul. He adds, "No snow until after you're done." Is that clear? So I guess he means no cocaine or maybe no skiing. I'm not sure.
Ulla leaves, and the man at the desk places a call. The person who answers identifies the caller as Crane, and Crane tells him that he's got the chrysanthemum charts. And the voice on the phone asks about Betty, and Crane tells him that Betty is taking a swim.
And next we see Betty's body being fished out of the bay by some fishermen who are working near the docks. In the next scene, two suits enter a conference room. One of the suits is Hullinger, chairman of the UN Commission for the Suppression of Drug Traffic. They couldn't make an acronym for that? The other is Captain Kelly, who dismisses all the security guards and introduces his team.
He introduces Mr. Stewart, the chief of the Narcotics Bureau, U.S. Treasury, Captain Sadek, captain of the Lebanese Secret Police, and Mr. Trenton from the State Department, and Kelly's assistant, King. He explains that in past years, quantities of opium have been smuggled into the United States, and a large shipment is being prepared, 150 pounds of pure opium, with a market value of $100 million, enough for a whole squadron of fighter bombers. And the future of the country and the whole free world is at stake.
Now it's movie time. This is sort of a newsreel showing various scenes of drug victims and cops making arrests, all attesting to the grave tragedy of the drug trade. Kelly tells Hullinger that there are 200,000 drug addicts in New York alone, but the addicts are not the problem. The movie ends and Kelly says their job is to liquidate the source. All of the law enforcement agencies of various nations are cooperating, and they have carte blanche to do whatever it takes to stop the suppliers.
Several countries have reported flights from China to the Middle East, and all these flights contained opium that they were then able to smuggle into the United States. And that is the reason why they have set up their base of operations here.
Kelly says they're looking for where they store all the opium and how it gets to the United States from here. And then he tells Hullinger that his agents that got too close were all murdered, and their bodies were marked with the image of a cobra, presumably in honor of the mysterious head of the organization.
But Kelly says there is one man he believes will be successful at this mission, and he plans to send him, and this is Mike Rand. Hullinger protests this. He's familiar with Mike Rand's reputation. He's a drunk and a traitor to his country. But Captain Kelly insists Mike Rand is the man for the job. He's the only one Kelly knows who can move around the Cobra's inner circles and not be afraid doing it.
And like it or not, they're going to use him. Now we're in the Istanbul Market Square. A man, this is Mike Rand, trots down some stairs and starts walking through the bazaar. He goes into one shop and pulls a gun on the proprietor, but he gives it to him. He's actually pawning it. He grabs a bottle of booze or two and leaves.
Rand goes home, and almost immediately he's visited by Captain Kelly, who's trying to coax him into taking this mission. Rand is suspicious of Kelly's motives. The last time Rand did something for them, they sent him up the river. He tells Kelly that he's not for hire. Besides, he's pawned his gun.
Rand is bitter, but Kelly tries to push through, saying Rand was his best agent. Rand cynically says, things are bad now, so you need me. He's not interested. Kelly admits that Rand got a bum rap. The bummest of raps. The bummest rap of all time. But the Cobra. Rand says the Cobra what now? Kelly doesn't know what the Cobra is. Is it a name? Is it the initials of the group? He just knows that a boatload of opium is on its way to the United States, a gift from Red China, unless they do something.
He goes on to say that the last agent they sent in was killed by a dum-dum.
This agent was a girl, Kelly tells Rand soberly, Betty. This means something to Rand. Apparently, Betty figured out that Rand was innocent and got Kelly to admit that Mike was framed.
Betty was going to come here and ask Rand to work with her, only the end of her life thwarted her plans to do so. Rand goes to the counter and picks up a bottle of wine. Then he asks Kelly to lend him $40. Rand takes the money and gets his gun out of hock. Then he goes down to the docks and climbs onto a boat. Inside, a man is sleeping. It's the hitman from the beginning of the film.
Ulla.
Mike enters with his gun drawn. He watches as Ulla stretches. Then Ulla throws a knife. It whizzes past Rand's head and embeds itself into the door. Now Rand's angry, so he grabs the man and starts beating him up. Rand tells him he made the mistake of leaving his calling card. He's the only man Rand knows who enjoys watching a dum-dum kill a person. That was his second mistake. The first was killing the only person Rand ever cared about.
Ulla says that he didn't know. Mike offers the man a hit of snow before his inevitable death at Mike's hands, but only if he tells Mike who ordered the hit. The man says the Cobra called him and told him to take her out.
Who is the Cobra? Demands Rand, but Ulla says he doesn't know. He received the order by phone. Rand searches Ulla and finds a piece of paper in his pocket. Rand wants to know how the name on the paper fits into all this. Harry Burton.
Harry Burton from the New York Ledger? Hitman confirms this and says that he's a lousy fed, the next on his hit list. Rand once again tries to get the name of who phoned him out of Ulla, and when he won't talk, he drags him out to the deck of the ship. The hitman denies it again, but a shot rings out. Ulla's been sniped. Rand sees a car speed away down the docks. He takes the hit note and the hit money and goes.
Now Rand is on a ferry, and he watches a woman who's watching him. When the boat docks and the passengers disembark, Mike evades the woman. He does this by getting a cab and taking it into town, and the woman isn't able to keep up with him.
The cab drops Mike off near a mosque. He takes off into the city, where he spots Anita Ekberg, who plays Lou, talking to a merchant at a flower shop. Mike heads to that flower shop after the woman leaves, and spots some black chrysanthemums, which apparently means something.
Mike next goes to the records office. He asks the clerk about the name he's acquired, that Harry Burton, and he's able to get Harry's address for the price of $10. Once that address has been acquired, Mike pays a visit to Harry Burton. Harry says he gave it the office, but Mike tells him they both work for the same company and Harry invites him in.
Harry starts blabbing to Mike about coded messages sent there via the farm reports or the financial reports in the newspaper, but he hasn't a clue about the Cobra. He's not sure the Cobra actually exists.
Mike notices a photograph on the wall of a couple of soldiers. Harry says that he took that photo when he first arrived in Korea. Mike says there's one problem with that story. He was the one who took that photo.
Mike knocks the fake Harry out. He hears some moaning and locates the real Harry beat up and bound in the closet. Rand tells him to speak up now. He'll settle accounts for him later. The real Harry chokes out one word, Beirut, and dies, just as the fake Harry starts to get up.
Fake Harry picks up his gun and tries to sneak up on Mike, but Mike is ready for him. Mike shoots Fake Harry, then jumps out the window where he commandeers a car, which he drives to the airport.
Mike runs through the airport and onto the tarmac and straight onto the plane as the flight attendant tells him to hurry up.
He ends up in Beirut in a woman's only club somehow.
Yeah, they show him getting there. Then what looks like some flight attendants get a ride to what looks like a different airport. And they go inside and enter the club Serena, which is a ladies' health spa and gym. But Rand is already there trying to get past the female attendants.
Mike pushes past them and enters a room where he notices two things. One is some black chrysanthemums, and the second is that Lou is there. Lou tells Mike that he's not supposed to be here in a woman's only club. She knows a man when she sees one. At least she thinks she does. Mike says that no one ever expressed any doubt, at least not to his face.
Lou threatens Mike with jail time. Mike jokes that he's a cosmetics salesman, and she tells him to get out or she'll call the police. Rand name drops Hullinger, so she puts the phone down. Rand goes over to the flowers, comments on their rarity, and then we see that the office is being surveilled by a figure in a chair with his back to us. That person tells his henchman Crane that the woman knows too much, talks too much, and tells Crane to go.
Mike again asks Lou about the chrysanthemums, but Lou tells him they could talk about flowers somewhere else. A girl from the club knocks and enters, and she asks if the man requires an escort off the property. Mike says that's a nice offer, but he can let himself out. But he does look forward to continuing the conversation later with Lou.
Let me see Rand going to a hotel. He peeks his head in, but doesn't go inside. He heads back out, bumps into a woman, apologizes to her, but she says not to be sorry. She liked it. And then we have a really confusing scene set in a restaurant.
We see a man talking to a sheik. The man is Stiarkos, we will find out in a bit, and he introduces the sheik to a young woman. The two of them grab a table, then Stiarkos heads to the bar where he meets Hullinger, who is enjoying a glass of wine. Then the two of them join Captain Kelly and the others at a table.
Hullinger snarks that Kelly hasn't done much so far, and from now on he wants daily reports. Stiarkos returns and escorts Hullinger away as the young woman stares at him intently.
Now Mike is at a bar, which features a window looking out into the pool where a woman is swimming. A contact of Mike's, Gamal, a forger, meets with Mike.
Mike has a job for Gamal, and Gamal also has a message for Mike. The big chief wants to see him. Mike tells Gamal that what he wants Gamal to do is hidden in the regular place, along with the money to pay for the job.
Then Mike goes back up and sits poolside. The woman who is swimming in the pool gets out and tells Mike that he's sitting on her beach towel. I think he tries to pick her up, but because he has no personal address or a bed to lie down on, it just doesn't work out.
The dubbing in this movie is so bad, it's really hard to pick out what people are saying. There are some lines we listened to over and over again, and we couldn't make out a single word. But the upshot of it is that they're going to meet later somehow.
In the next scene, Mike is riding a motorcycle to meet with Captain Kelly. Mike's a little late. They were supposed to meet at 3.
Kelly says that someone's been complaining about Rand. Rand's left behind too many corpses, and corpses don't talk. Rand says that he never asked to do this job, but since he got roped in, he's going to handle it his way.
Mike tells Kelly that he needs to look into the blonde who works at the beauty salon.
Kelly knows who he means, but tells him to be careful. This blonde is tight with Hullinger. Kelly agrees to check on her, but warns Rand to stay clear of her. Rand promises that he will act like he doesn't even know her.
Cut to Mike and Lou in bed together. Lou sees a syringe on a table and goes to pick it up. Drop it, yells Mike, and he wrestles the syringe away from her. She asks him to let her go, and he asks her how she's connected to Hullinger. What's the deal with the black chrysanthemums, and who is the Cobra?
She claims ignorance, but then coughs up the name of Crane, the Cobra's assistant.
She says she doesn't know about the chrysanthemums, and we're going to play that clip right now because maybe you can interpret it better than we did.
All you have to do is tell me in as few words as possible why you're moonlighting with Hullinger, what those black chrysanthemums mean, and what you know about the Cobra.
I don't know, for the love of God, Mike.
It's up to you.
I don't know any Cobra. The man in charge, his name is Green. And I saw it's used as a cover. Green is running it for the syndicate.
The chrysanthemums?
I don't know. It's used as a singer for the goods when it's arriving.
How does it travel?
I don't know.
I think she was trying to explain how they were bugged, but honestly, there's no way of knowing what she said. She babbles a few more syllables and then collapses. And then Mike carries her to the bed.
I knew I could trust you, she says. Mike puts his shirt back on and tells her to relax. Lou says she didn't want to be a junkie, but they forced her into it. She hopes it's not too late for her.
Mike braves that he has an idea, and then Crane comes in the room and shoots him in the gut. Mike grabs his gut and then falls to the floor.
Later, we see Captain Kelly on the scene, reviving Mike. Mike was lucky. The gun in his waistband protected him from the bullet. Mike asks what happened to the girl. Kelly says he could ask Mike the same question. Kelly supposes that Rand isn't interested in the information he asked for. If you're referring to the blonde, says Rand, I know too much about her already. Kelly pulls out a piece of paper and shows it to Rand. It's a bird's eye view of a drop zone for the opium.
It looks like it was done in charcoal by a child. And now we're in a helicopter above a landscape that resembles that charcoal sketch. Kelly and Rand are there with Gamal and, of course, the pilot. And Kelly tells everyone that the drugs are dropped down there somewhere, but their extensive dragnet hasn't caught anything. Mike tells Gamal that he'll pick him up later and tells him that that job that he asked for is a surprise for Kelly and not to say anything.
Now Mike and Gamal are in a jeep and returning to Mike's place. He notices the woman from the boat and from the restaurant who is sitting with the sheik. Me and my shadow, he says. He picks her up and brings her inside and looks at her ID. She's Corinne from Colorado. He asks why she's been following him, and she just gives him the number for the U.S. Embassy.
She tells Mike he can call the embassy contact if he has any questions about her. Mike tells her to get out and stay out of his business. And in another odd scene, we are in the club, where a male-female trio wearing rope bikinis are dancing. Corinne is there too, and she takes a seat.
Outside, Captain Kelly arrives with Rand. They go in and take a booth behind a curtain where they can see the crowd, but they can't easily be seen. And they notice that Stiarkos is there. Hullinger walks in, and Corinne nearly jumps out of her seat when she sees him. Hullinger goes to the bar to meet with Stiarkos.
In the booth, Rand orders a bottle of whiskey, and Kelly nags him about his alcohol consumption. Stiarkos introduces Hullinger to 2 chicks named Rose and Mary. Guess they're having a double date?
Suddenly, the wall behind the booth where Kelly and Rand are sitting spins around, and the two of them find themselves in a different room, face to face with Crane and his gun, along with some other well-dressed gentlemen and their guns.
Crane is there, but now his Superman is Li Fang, a cartel middle manager. The men frisk Kelly and Rand. Li Fang congratulates himself on easily capturing these 2 U.S. agents. Rand says he's not an agent, he's an independent contractor. No matter, says Li Fang. You work together, you die together.
Li Fang goes on to explain their impending dooms, but he's silenced by the Cobra, who descends a spiral staircase to join the others. He wears a black hood over his face. The Cobra orders that Rand and Kelly be searched, and they find that Rand has the chrysanthemum chart on him.
This surprises Kelly.
The Cobra tells Rand that because he was so helpful in delivering the chrysanthemum chart back to him, Rand has earned the right to learn the plan, and Li Fang volunteers to tell him all about it.
He superimposes the chrysanthemum chart over a map of the United States. The little black flowers and coordinates on the chart coincide with U.S. cities where the drugs will be pushed. There's no better way to bring about the collapse of an already decaying society, says Li Fang.
He must have done an adequate job of explaining this because the Cobra commends him on a job well done. Then Cobra brings in Miss Lou. Lou walks into the room in a daze. Yes, master, she says. He sits her in a chair and explains that opium has driven out any will to resist.
Crane pulls out his gun, telling Mike and Kelly that it's time for them to die. But surprise, Lou isn't submitting to the opium. She jumps up and karate chops the gun out of Crane's hand, and then turns out the light, so the black masked man can disappear into a vault, and Mike and Kelly can fight the thugs. In order to help them, Lou spins the booth around enough so that they can all escape through the club, and then they make their way outside.
But they may have been better off staying in the crowd because they're being shot at outside. They duck for cover, and suddenly Corinne drives up, and they all pile into her car. Kelly tells Rand that if they get out of this, he'll see that Rand gets a vacation. 10 years in San Quentin for concealing the chart from him. Rand tells Kelly not to worry. The chart the Cobra has was a forgery he had his friend Gamal whip up for him. Mike says the original is safe, and he asks that they be dropped off at Gamal's house. They'll be safe there.
He looks at Corinne and says he doesn't want her in this mission, but Kelly says that she's a first-class agent who just saved their hides. Mike thanks her, but gives credit to Lou as well, who also saved them.
So Rand and Lou are dropped off at Gamal's house, and they go inside. Lou finds a bra laying on the floor. Is this the way you and Gamal work? She asks. A woman's voice from the back calls out, "Is that you, Mike?" And out comes the woman from the pool with a gun in her hand.
She says that she's got her own towel now. She shoots at Lou and barely misses. Mike strong-arms her into a chair and sets down a bottle of stimulant that will make her more conversant. Actually, it's carbolic acid, which he threatens to maim her with if she doesn't talk.
It's a bottle with a little skull and crossbones on it.
He pours a little on the table so that she can see what it does.
A few drops and she won't be winning any beauty contests.
But if she talks, she may have to go to jail, but at least she'll be able to recognize herself in the mirror.
Mike tells the woman to tell him what she's doing here, and she says she's got to get the real charts, and they know that he's got them. Then he tells her to spill some more.
Next we see Mike and Gamal park their Jeep in a remote location. They think the girl led them astray as there's nothing there, but then they hear a plane and kill the lights on the Jeep. It's a drop plane about to deliver the goods. There's an array of flashing lights on the ground, and that's just where the crate lands, and some workers bring it into their compound.
The smugglers seem to be using a pipeline in the delivery system. Rand and Gamal continue sneaking around. Rand tells Gamal to wait here as Rand climbs into an underground tunnel system. A man comes by with a gun, and Rand liberates it from him. Then Rand sneaks closer to the action and ducks behind some crates. We see that Crane is there, apparently overseeing this operation. Rand sneaks closer and sees several men putting large capsules of opium into the pipeline, and manages to nab one on his way out.
And now in her or someone else's apartment, Lou is once again kidnapped, stolen from her bed by some more of Cobra's thugs. And now we're in a situation room where Captain Kelly meets a team of munitions experts dressed like college tennis players. He assigns them to Captain Sadek.
Hullinger bursts in. He doesn't appreciate being dragged out of bed. Kelly has Hullinger and the others sit down so he can explain what Rand has told him about the pipeline. After the explanation, Hullinger thinks it's a fanciful hypothesis. So Rand hands Hullinger the capsule he lifted, and Kelly explains that it's pure opium, about a half a pound, and worth $30,000 in the right hands.
Kelly and Rand explain how the opium goes from the cave to the sea to an oil tanker via the pipeline. But they say there's an American oil company refinery on the harbor, and that's involved too.
Hullinger must say on record that he feels that no American oil company would knowingly be involved in a drug-running operation. And Kelly agrees with him. So they can't work in an official capacity, but they have Captain Sadek willing to take the whisk along with them. Hullinger thinks this is all fine as long as they are successful. If they aren't, Kelly will wish she were dead.
Mike tells him that they have to get a move on, so they mobilize.
In a control room at the refinery, Lou is being thrown around by Crane and Li Fang. The Cobra comes in and says that Rand is with the others, and he knows that Rand still has the chrysanthemum chart. The Cobra wants Lou to call Rand, and Crane threatens her with a longshoreman's hook placed at her throat.
One of them pulls out a syringe and threatens to inject it into her arm. Lou screams, no. She's surrounded by the three, and Cobra tells her one false move and she's dead. They get Mike on the phone, and Lou tries to warn him that it's a trap, and Li Fang shoots her. On the other side of the line, Mike hangs up and tells Sadek to trace the call, and that the Cobra just made one fatal mistake.
They ask who it was, and Rand says it was a woman who came to him for help. So next the group is racing out to the refinery. Li Fang and a couple of thugs are patrolling the area.
Rand, Kelly, and the munitions men get out and head there on foot. Li Fang and 3 men are patrolling and fire at Mike and Kelly, etc., and then a gun battle ensues. There are a few casualties, and a well-placed grenade takes out Li Fang. Gamal also gets hit, and then everyone else keeps heading toward the refinery.
Kelly and the others make their way to the main gate, while Rand has to deal with Crane, who just popped out from a hatch. They go one-on-one, and Mike wins, and then descends into one of the tunnels, as the siren starts to blare.
Inside the refinery, Mike starts looking around, and then he ends up in the spotlight as someone takes pot shots at him. A voice tells him that he's got no choice but to throw down his gun and come out. Then there are some railing kills with casualties on both sides. That spotlight seeks but doesn't find Mike for a good long time, enabling him to kill more bad guys, either by shooting them or going hand to hand.
Outside, the artillery fire continues, and the pipeline is now in flames. Underground, Rand continues taking out the Cobra's men one by one. The Cobra realizes he might be in trouble, so he starts calling out to Crane.
Next we see Mike crouching next to what is soon revealed to be Lou's body, and then the Cobra asks one of his men to go find Crane.
Rand corners the Cobra, and the Cobra tells him that he's got a gun, so he should just use it.
The Cobra tries to bribe Mike with $2 million just to let him get to the sea. $2 million for 300 yards? That's a good deal.
Then Rand says, "Do I have news for you?"
They're coming to get you, man. There'll be a grand jury. They'll indict you. And there'll be a trial that'll go on forever. Because you'll have a regiment of lawyers that get paid by the word. They'll try to prove that you're insane. And that shouldn't be too difficult. All of which means you'll be able to look forward to tomorrow. And who knows what tomorrow will bring. You might even get off with a fine. In any case, you'd be alive. But that's not the way it's gonna be. Because I'm not gonna let you get away with it. You slimy bastard. I'm your judge, jury, and your executioner.
The Cobra is dead. Captain Kelly and the others make their way to where the Cobra lies.
Kelly glares at Mike for killing yet another suspect.
Then Rand and Kelly both do the honors of removing the Cobra's mask. It's Stiarkos.
Seeing this, Mike storms off.
Last time something like this happened, things didn't go too well for him.
Now Mike's back at his place, where he calls out to some chick, one we saw earlier in the movie, serving him drinks in his room. But we never mentioned her. But there's no time for canoodling. Kelly is there, with Rand's reward.
Rand says he didn't remember inviting Kelly for dinner. Kelly says that's okay. He's brought sandwiches. 100,000 of them. He pulls out a stack of bills.
It's some we're sorry money from the government to Mike. Also, Kelly wants Mike back on the force, but Mike's still pretty bitter about Betty and Lou and being framed and stuff, so he says no. He's got all he needs here. A bed, a woman to sleep in that bed, and 2 bottles. One for now and one for later. He asks Kelly to just let him go to hell his own way. Kelly drops off the cash and tells Mike never say never, and then he goes. After Kelly leaves, Mike tells the girl, who he calls Kitten, he needs to do as the Quran suggests and dig a well, plant a tree, and father a son. It's time we got started, he says. And then she smiles at him, and they both look to the sun setting on the horizon. And that's the end.
You're listening to the American International Podcast, and we're discussing The Cobra from 1967.
The Cobra was shot in Rome with studio scenes taking place in the Cinecittà, and exteriors were shot in Istanbul and Beirut. This was a Spanish-Italian co-production.
Peter Martell, known in his native Italy as Pietro Martellanza, made his American debut in The Cobra. Martell was featured in numerous spaghetti westerns and Euro thrillers in the 1960s and 1970s, including Night of the Blood Monster in 1970.
Oh, we saw that. Dana Andrews began his adult working life as an accountant, but soon after taking that job, quit it and hitchhiked to Los Angeles with the thought of becoming a singer or an actor. It only took 7 years for him to land a contract with Samuel Goldwyn, according to the AIP press book. Before The Cobra, he starred in well-regarded films like Tobacco Road, Belle Star, Foreign Correspondent, The Expo Incident, and Laura.
And Spy in Your Eye. The Cobra was released in America beginning in late December 1967, paired with The Glory Stompers, House of $1,000, or Psych Out, depending upon the market, with a wider release in the spring of 1968.
AIP's press book suggested that theater owners stage an Anita Ekberg lookalike contest, as well as one asking people to name as many Dana Andrews films as they could. AIP also suggested consulting the man on the street, as well as high school and college students, for their opinions on stopping the illicit drug trade in America. One last stunt they suggested was placing cardboard boxes painted red on street corners with signs reading, "It's dynamite," advertising the movie.
Taglines for the Cobra include danger, dames, and sudden death in the deadliest manhunt the world has ever known.
With guts, a gun, and a babe for bait, they laid a trap for the Cobra.
Danger, dames, and death. These are the fangs of the Cobra.
Box Office Magazine's reviews said, the exotic settings in the Middle East and Far East, plus action of a sinister nature, have entertainment value for fans who do not ask for originality in their screen fare. There are some ingenious gimmicks for transporting the opium under watchful espionage eyes, which add up to a smashing climax, but many of its plot features are shop-worn. However, of its type, this is better in some ways than many of the James Bond imitators, and it is not too rough in dialogue, nor does it overdo the romantic scenes ad nauseum.
Mark Holthouse, in his Cinema Views column published in the Shepherd Senator, Wichita Falls, Texas, wrote, "The plot is kind of old hat, but Dana Andrews and Anita Ekberg do a good job, so the flick is fair."
And that is all we could find out about the Cobra. There's not a lot of information about this movie.
So this movie is pretty obscure today, and I think it was pretty obscure upon release from the way it seems. There weren't a lot of reviews for it.
It seems like there's a good reason for that, though, after we've seen it twice.
It's not very good, is it?
No, it's not very good, and it has a lot of things that are working against it besides the story, and that would be the dubbing. Well, I guess the story would be the other big thing. But the dubbing is really bad.
The dubbing may have sounded better originally. It may just be an old soundtrack that we're listening to. Can't say for sure. This movie was not easy to find. I don't even know where I found it.
I'm sure through some reputable outlet.
I've been looking lately and I can find foreign DVD releases, but there's no English track on there. Maybe it was on YouTube at one point. Maybe it's on YouTube now. I don't know.
A lot of times you just have to wait for a DVD to come up, and it may not be a legitimate DVD release.
And I don't think any company is clamoring to release this one.
It is kind of a James Bond knockoff and not a good one. The whole story doesn't really make a lot of sense. Mike first sees Lou in Istanbul, and then he sees her working in Beirut, I guess. They don't really explain where and when they are in any meaningful way.
Yeah, the movie is hard to follow, and I think it's made worse by the fact that I just didn't really care.
Obviously, we cared enough to try and document what happened in the movie for listeners, but a lot of the times we're just writing down what we think happened, because it's not very well explained, and what is explained is often unintelligible. We played a clip from the movie earlier where we're asking you to figure out what Anita Ekberg is saying, or whoever dubbed her voice. And occasionally this movie lapses into Italian, the cut that we have, which is a good indication that those scenes were excised for the AIP release. There's only a few lines that are included, and sometimes they're in the middle of a scene that would otherwise be intact.
That's not unusual, though.
What we typically see is they cut out whole scenes, not one line from a scene.
We saw that when we did Samson and the Slave Queen. We saw examples of that, where they excised whole scenes, but also just sections of dialogue.
But if they had done it for this, there would be jump cuts.
There were jump cuts anyway. I don't think AIP cared. There were jump cuts in a lot of AIP foreign product.
I guess that's my modern sensibilities at work. I think that the character of Mike Rand is so incredibly unlikable. He gets the job done, but he's so loathsome.
He suffers the same symptoms that Slaughter does, where he thinks he's the greatest thing on earth, but there's nothing to prove that. And he's just walking through life like, I'm this guy. And I guess as the audience, you're supposed to say, yeah, he's the guy, but with nothing on screen to show a reason for him feeling this way, it's really kind of a turnoff just to watch.
I mean, to give Mike Rand credit, I think he was better at his job than Slaughter was at his investigations. But also, if it weren't for the women in this movie, I don't think Mike Rand would have gotten very far. He gets most of his information from them, whether it's with his dubious charms or with carbolic acid.
And the women in this movie, the way they're used is just strange. The character of Corinne, who's following Mike around, we don't know why. We find later that she's one of the good guys.
She's working for Kelly. Is she trying to keep him safe? But it was before Rand was even working for Kelly. She was following him, wasn't she?
No, because we don't meet Rand until Kelly shows up at his place. We see him walking through. He pawns his gun and then he's working for him. I'm not sure what she's supposed to be. Is she just supposed to be another red herring?
At first, I believe. Because there's so many women who look like her in this movie.
Her character was just so pointless. Betty at least had the job of dying and setting things into motion.
Well, she found the chrysanthemum charts. And about those, if she died trying to give them to her handlers and they were stolen back by Crane, how did Mike get a hold of it so that he could make a forged copy, which looks exactly like the original, but is different? But he had the original. How did he ever get that?
They never say that. Like I said, this movie is very hard to follow.
Well, that's a really bad script then.
Yeah, you don't expect logic to help you out.
And wouldn't these guys know their own plans? They'd have to get that chart back because they don't know where they're going now?
Well, chart shows us where they plan on pushing the drugs to which American cities. So a fake one would just have them go into the wrong cities, but they could still carry out the plan.
They end up in, they're all rural communities. And this whole global conspiracy over 150 pounds of opium? 150? That's it? Couldn't you just put that in the trunk of a car and drive it somewhere? I don't know a lot about the drug trade, but it seems like there would be a greater quantity of drugs involved.
And I don't think the danger by this would be a threat of national security.
The end of the free world as we know it. But that's what we're told. It's like they couldn't think of anything worse than that. So they're like, okay, drugs. The end of the free world is not going to come via 150 pounds of opium.
That would just be embarrassing.
Dana Andrews seems to be slumming here. I don't even think we were hearing his real voice.
We probably weren't. I know we weren't hearing Anita Ekberg's voice.
I don't know what she sounds like.
Well, that's because we haven't watched La Dolce Vita yet. Well, actually, we still wouldn't because we're going to watch the dubbed version because that's the one that AIP released.
He has a real thankless role. All he's doing is middle managing. And I guess at the end, he finally starts shooting. Isn't he top billed?
Yeah, he is. And I can't imagine rushing out to a theater to see this movie, especially if you paired it with House of a Thousand Dolls, unless I really needed a nap.
Boy, what a 1-2 punch that would be. And it doesn't go with the other movies, Glory Stompers or Psych Out.
No, it's kind of the anti-Psych Out.
I thought the end of Psych Out was the anti-Psych Out.
We weren't really able to determine how American International wound up with this film. I don't think it's one that they sought out. I imagine it was one that was just thrown at them. They were releasing a lot of Italian spy thrillers and westerns at this time, so maybe it was part of a package deal.
That could be. I don't think Peter Martell got much more work after this in America. I don't think he ever broke big in America.
I had certainly never heard of him, and I didn't recognize him from anything. And I'm sure that if this was his big break, it didn't go anywhere.
He changed his name for this, or it was changed for him, I'm sure.
So Cheryl, how do you regard the Cobra using our AIP scale where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic?
I'm kind of torn. I really didn't like this movie, and I didn't really think that it even needed to be made. It has nothing to say, not very interesting, and the dubbing quality for the American version is so bad that it's hard to understand what people are even saying. So I feel like I have no choice but to give it a P, but I kind of feel like it's not even worth degrading down to a P. It's just there. It just exists. It's kind of a meh movie. So maybe I'll give it an I. It's one of the two. I have to choose one, though, and I should flip a coin. Let's just go with a very low I. What do you think?
Well, I have to say that I found nothing redeeming about this movie at all. There were points where it could have done something if it had just explained more. I used to understand the whole chrysanthemum thing. They have black chrysanthemums that they hide a microphone camera set up in. I guess it wouldn't be the camera because, yeah,
it was
a microphone and camera. And the whole thing is the chrysanthemum chart, but there's no rhyme or reason that it has to be the chrysanthemum, except that the flower shop had them in stock, I guess. I don't know. They try to build up the character of Mike Rand as this cool anti-hero kind of guy. He gets things done, but not necessarily by the book. And you're supposed to have respect for him, even if you don't respect his methods. And it seemed like they were taking this whole operation a lot more seriously than they needed to. I mean, yeah, drugs are bad, sure. And you probably want to stop them from coming into the country, but is it really worth all this trouble? Several people died, and it seems like not necessarily a thing that they should be risking their lives for. You want to get the information, but is it really a life or death situation? I just wasn't buying it. And the character of Hullinger, who is a red herring, I guess because he's grouchy all the time and complaining about all the work that's being done, and he has to get out of bed and come to these meetings.
They make him seem really suspicious, like he might be part of the conspiracy to transport the drugs. Especially in that last scene with him.
And it doesn't go anywhere except that it just arouses the suspicions of the viewer, I guess. I didn't care for this movie at all. I'm not going to give it a low I. This isn't a P all the way for me. It's a poor movie and not worth your time.
I think I might actually revise my grade because of this. Why was Stiarkos the Cobra? They didn't have any build up for that. They didn't have any explanation. We didn't even know who he was to begin with. And now we find out he's the Cobra. And that's the movie's big reveal at the end.
Yeah, they just had him at the restaurant and he has a drink with Hullinger. He wasn't one of the ones they introduced in the beginning when Kelly was introducing the whole team to each other. He should have been there. Or at least Crane should have been there.
I thought he was the maitre d' at the restaurant at first because he was walking people around to their tables. But apparently he was somebody else. I think I have to drop my grade to a P because I just realized that makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, if you weren't even paying attention, he's only in that one scene, really. And they mention his name once. And then they take off his mask and go, it's Stiarkos. And you're like, wow, I guess it is. Who cares?
I'm going to do an unprecedented grade change and drop it down to a P and agree with you.
Double pathetic grade.
Because the first time I watched it, I didn't understand or register that they're naming the Cobra after they unmasked him. Like you said, he's barely in the movie up until that point, and we don't know who he is or what his connection to anything is.
He just has a connection to that restaurant, and his hideout's in the back, so I guess it's convenient.
Yeah, but everybody knows about that, and we don't know who he is. Does he own the restaurant?
I think it's a fair guess to say he probably owns the restaurant and the property in the back, but they don't establish that in the film in any way, and they don't acknowledge him except they call him by his name once.
Yeah, this movie, it blows.
The Cobra has no bite.
So you can try and track this movie down, but we don't recommend it. Now, while the government, as depicted in the Cobra, has all kinds of secrets, the American International Podcast website is unclassified. Just go to AIPpod.com. There you can find our entire library of episodes. For over 2.5 years, we've been talking about American International pictures. You'll also find a contact form so you can tell us which movie you are most looking forward to us reviewing, or you can help us find one of the movies missing from our library. You'll see lobby cards, posters, trailers, and other advertising materials there, as well as information on where to find these films so you can enjoy them. While you're on our site, consider going to our store, as a purchase of one of our cool AIP-related items helps keep the podcast rolling every week. And you can find all that and more at AIPpod.com.
Well, Cheryl, I think we can both agree that this movie delivered a runtime of about 94 minutes. This has been the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.